Oh, sorry for the momentary delay. How you doing? I'm Jeff. You're in my workshop, and I am running just a hair behind. So I'm going to be setting things up here really quickly. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, that should be Twitch right there. For whatever reason, the streaming thing was a little goofy this morning on YouTube. So it's there's a lot of little things, a lot of boxes that need to get checked before I actually go live. And if I forget to do one of them, it can really screw me up. So I think that's what happened this morning is I just kind of forgot to do one little thing and it made me screwed up a little bit, but it looks like we are now running on all, okay, I got to turn, hang on and turn the volume off. There we go. I just opening my chat windows here. So good morning and welcome. If you have some comments, questions, you want to say hi, you want to throw out a suggestion or a comment or whatever, go ahead and throw it into the chat. I will try to keep up with those as best as possible. Speaking of which, I need to line up my windows here so that they are all in one place. Now, unfortunately, I think, oh, you know what? Hang on, I know where that's coming from. I've got my headphones on over here at the main computer, and I think that's where I'm hearing this from. There we go. All right, because you all don't need to hear me twice, and that would do some weird echo things and whatever, so we do not want that. Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. All right, I have all of my windows open now, so I can see all of the chats coming in and hopefully address those. If you're new to my shop, welcome. I am just a retired guy who does woodworking in his garage, and I live stream it 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11 o'clock on YouTube and Facebook and Twitch. And well, hopefully you're seeing me in one of those locations. And if you'd rather look at a different location, if you look down here, you'll see all my socials are down there for Facebook and YouTube and Twitch, and also for Instagram and for what else is on there? I don't know. Twitter? Yeah, there's some other stuff in there. Anyway, lots of stuff in there. All of the socials are in there. They're also in the description. So if you'd like to go check some other stuff out, feel free to click on one of those links and follow away. I also have links down below to like most of my big shop tools and stuff that I use. So if you want to see what I'm using, there's stuff in there. If you're interested in what I'm using for the live stream stuff, I have all of the tech gear that I use for the live stream all linked down below. So if you wanted to buy one of the things or just look and see what I'm using, all that stuff is down below. If you do buy something from an Amazon link, if you click on one of those, those are affiliate links. So if you're not familiar with affiliate links, if you buy something through an affiliate link, like I would get a percentage of that sale, but it doesn't add anything to your price. It just kicks something to me because you came in through my page. So that's what an affiliate link, and I'm sure you've seen them, like every YouTuber who has anything like physical will have an affiliate link usually, just to, it's, make a little money. This stuff is not like, hey, ATEM minis right here from Blackmagic, they are free. They cost money. So, I like to help finance things. That's why I sell my bases and stuff that I make, because unfortunately my hobby is not a free hobby. So it costs money. And pretty much every hobby I get into seems to be a costly hobby. Recently I just got a mountain bike, and me being me, I can't just be happy with the way it is. So I'm like getting upgrades and doing things to it. And so it could just be pay for the bike and ride it, but no, I can't do that. I've got to upgrade stuff. So anyway, today is Wednesday, the 5th of May. So happy Cinco de Mayo. I'm glad I wasn't on yesterday, so I didn't have to hear the corny Star Wars memes about May the 4th be with you and such. But It was a productive day for me yesterday. Wow, very productive day. So if you've been tuning in to the channel at any point in time, you've seen that we mostly work on these kind of things, which are sewing machine bases. Not super glamorous, not the kind of woodworking thing that most people are going to be tackling. But for me, it's a very niche market. Niche. I don't know how you say that word. Anyway, it's a niche market, which means that there ain't a lot of people making them, and there is a lot of people who want them, which works well for me. I had recently finished 5 bases, and no, 6 bases. Yeah, 6 bases, and I've basically listed them yesterday at around 2 o'clock, and by 5 o'clock, all but one are gone. They're all sold. So very productive day. Yeah, there's apparently there is a vacancy in the market right now. There's not a lot of these on hand for people to buy, and there are a lot of people who want to buy them, which is good for me. My problem is, I could probably sell as many as I could make, but I have other things I want to make, like I'm make things like this little thing that still needs a little finish on it, but and I make other stuff. So I could just be a production shop and make bases all the time, but I don't want to bore myself with just making bases all the time. I do this for fun, and I do this, because it interests me. And if I do it all the time, then it's a business, and that's why I retired. I didn't want to be in business anymore. So I do it. I get people all the time, oh, can you make this and can you make that? And I'm like, if I get around to it, I will, but I'm not going to make any promises. I used to, and it was just putting pressure on myself, and I just don't want to have the pressure. So I will make more. In fact, probably when we get these done, I will start into another batch of them, because I kind of feel bad. People really want them, and they're like almost begging me to make them, and they throw their money at me as soon as they're done. They're like, here's my money, please. And I'm like, okay. And they never complain about the price I charge. I think I charge a fair price, but they never complain. Nobody's ever like, wow, could you sell it for less? No, they just jump on them and grab them while they're there. So I know that there is a huge demand, at least right now. There are a couple of people in the maker space who do make these things, but I'm not sure what they're working on right now, because there's nothing in the usual places where I look at my competition. There's nothing available. So when I pump a bunch of these out, if there's nothing out there, man, they just go like crazy. So, it's kind of like, oh, strike while the iron's hot, take advantage of it. And so I try to. Oh, sorry, I was a little late with the coffee this morning, so I really needed the coffee. One thing I think that really helps sell my bases is that I don't just like stack them up and take a photo and go, here they are. It's like, no, I actually make them look very pretty. Aside from the fact that I think they look pretty when we start, I do my best I photograph them really well. Being a retired professional photographer helps. I do have a skill set in that area that allows me to take nice photos. And I think having really nice photographs and covering them from different angles and things like that really gives people an appreciation for the craftsmanship of the base and for how nice it looks. And it gives them kind of an idea of what they're buying, not just some bad picture. I hate bad pictures in like eBay and Facebook Marketplace and wherever. I can't stand it when people just throw up a bad out of focus photograph and you're trying to actually buy a product from them and you can't tell if it's decent or not. And I that's one of my big pet peeves is bad photo. Let's face it, you can take a good, if it's out of focus, you see it's out of focus on your camera, take another photo for goodness sakes. So one of my pet peeves. But I pulled up, so let's see if we can do this here. This will be a little crazy. I have to get on the right space here. Okay, I'm going to switch over on my computer and let's see if, there we go. Now, hopefully, I'm going to check my, my computer here to make sure you're seeing what you should be seeing. So give me just a second before, there's a little delay here. So give me just a second here and let's see, there we go. You're seeing them. Okay, so this is just a small example of the photographs that I have taken. I don't know how to click through these. Should be like a next button or something. Right there. How do I click through these on here? I should be able to click something and, oh, there it is. Okay, there it's on the edge here. Okay, so I have a little studio set up in my basement and with studio lighting and the whole deal. I mean, you don't have to go to this extent, but for me, like I said, you're trying to showcase your item in the best light possible. So if you're making a piece of furniture, don't show it in your shop, set it up in a space where it looks like it belongs. And you know, try to get some nice light, maybe with a window with a northern exposure is really beautiful light, and you know, whatever you can do to make it look better than just a cruddy photograph, because that is going to pay dividends in the long run. So this is what I post. This is a montage of several of the items that I posted. This is the 301 base, pardon me, which is sycamore and that's quarter sawn sycamore and mahogany, which is just a gorgeous combination. So I try to get detail shots like this. A lot of people like to see the handles and such. This shows off the the joinery. I did these really nice dovetails on this one, so they're really pretty. So hey, I want that to show off because, you know, that's a feature. You know, you need to highlight the features. And here's another one that I did right here. So this is the this, and you'll notice there's a card in here. See, it says number 3. So what I do is when I list these on Facebook or something, this was my wife gave me this idea, which kudos to her. She said, put a number identifier in there. That way when people want to reference what they want to buy, because they'll just send you a message and say, hey, can I get that base? And you'll be like, which one? Well, there's a number in one of the photographs. And so that way they can look at that and reference the item. I also have the same view normally without that. But anyway, so I will take different photographs of these. I take them from different angles. Like I want to showcase that this has a nice lid right here, right? So this kind of over and angled view from kind of a top-down view is nice because it shows off the angle. Also, I use a quilt. Once again, my lovely wife made this quilt, and I use that as a backdrop. It's kind of this is a very quilty community. A lot of people who use these machines make quilts, so it kind of ties into the whole thing. I have done just simple white backgrounds, but the quilty thing adds a nice touch to it. So, but here's another photo from another angle, kind of that angled view showing from, you know, the top where the machine sits. I also have a really pretty machine sitting in there. This is my model. I call her my model. She does very nice. She's a Persian. So that's the decal design is called a Persian. And so it's kind of a rare decal design, I guess. And so a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, what is that machine? What is that decals? So I had to get that information from my wife. Like I said, I'm not an expert at this stuff, but because I get it so much, I'm like, okay, what is that? Because people ask me all the time. So now I can just answer them without having to always tag her. I believe that's a Model 15 machine. But a lot of the machines from this era are the same size, which is why I can make these bases to a specific size because they accommodate a very large number of machines. A Model 66, also called a Red Eye, which is probably one of the most common treadle sewing machines in the world. They made millions of those and people find them all the time, which I think is why it's funny when you'll see somebody listing the one they have in grandma's house and they try to list it for like $600. And it's like, it's not that rare, buddy. But anyway, that's another story. So here's another shot. You know, I've got the logo in here. I usually do a close-up of the logo too. I don't think I have a close-up photo of the logo, but I do a close-up of the logo. Like I said, I'll do shots of the end here so they can see that the joinery looks really nice, that it has these really nice handles. These handles are huge. People love these little, it's a little touch right there, but those handles are huge because people like to pick these things up and move them, and trying to slide this thing off with those machines probably weigh 15 pounds or more. And then you have to like slide it off the edge of a table to pick up. Well, if you got the handles, it's nice. You just pop it up and away you go. So here's another shot I'll take, just take the lid off and have it set next to it so they can see the storage space and they can see the lid next to it. So this is what I do when I'm photographing my products. And like I said, I'll shoot the back of it. That's the back view of it. I think that, what? Oh, okay. Sorry, it's like I got an invoice. I'm like, why do I have an invoice? But anyway, it's a Twitch streamer that I support, and every month I get a little bill, but it's okay. He's a friend, so I like to support him and the work that he does. He's a nice kid. You cannot support me through Twitch because I am not a Twitch affiliate, and that's okay, because then I couldn't stream to all the other places. Twitch is a weird place. I put it out there just in case anybody comes across it, but Twitch is a weird place. Anyway, so like I said, I cover it from all the different angles. I try to show all the features. I try to show the joinery, and I try to do it in a way that is very pretty and nice looking. And, this does not, I mean, obviously mine are up a couple of levels from where you might be trying to list yours, but it doesn't take that much. I mean, honestly, I could be taking those with my phone if I wanted to. I don't. I use a regular DSLR camera with studio lights, but I could do this. I could put it in a nice setting in my home and take nice photographs of it, and it would look decent, and I would still get probably good business. Like I said, there's guys who just like stack these things up on a workbench table and take photos and say, here you go. And I'm like, okay. I mean, they look all right, but they don't look like, I want someone to see this and go, oh, I could see my machine in there. Because people love their machines. These are their babies. So here's a picture showing the inside and how I've got the corner posts in there so they can see what's basically on the inside and how that works. And I usually snap a photo. I think that's the last of them. I usually snap a photo of the bottom of it too. So about somewhere between 10 to 12 photographs is how many I take and post for each item I sell. And I believe that is, no matter what you're selling, the more photographs you can take, the more success you're going to have, and the more you can justify the price you're asking. Because that's another thing too, is like I said, people, they're like, oh, well, it doesn't feel like it's worth that much. If you make it look like $1 million, you're going to get a better price. I'm just saying. I found that to be the case. When I sell, like I play and guitars, and I sell guitars and trade guitars, and it's a sickness. But anyway, when I have a guitar that I'm going to sell, I don't just snap a photo of it and say, here's a guitar I'm going to sell. I will take it down to my studio and I'll put it on the stand and I would light that thing, and it looks like I have to tell people these are not catalog photos. These are of the actual guitar because they look that good. But I think I can demand a little bit more money than someone who just has it, a picture of it laying on their couch, right? So presentation really does matter in these cases. And that's why I wanted to show these off to you. Like I said, I sold all these like that. I have one left. I will also say that you'll find as you're doing things, if you have things that have different options, you might find that certain things sell better than others, right? So I can tell you that I have a plain base that does not have this side compartment. It has no side, it's just a base that fits underneath, no side compartment or anything, right? I have a plain one, and then I have one with a logo. Then I have this larger one with a side compartment, and then I have a side compartment with a logo. I can tell you that as a matter of selling, this one with the logo sells better than this one with no logo. It just does. The logo adds value. I charge more for that value too. It's not much, but I charge like $10 more for that logo. I put it on the CNC machine and it cuts it, and then I make it just like the other one. But that little extra something that I have to do, I charge for that. That's not a free upgrade, that's a feature that I charge for. Just like if I make one with a base, one with a side compartment, I charge more for that side compartment than I do without a side compartment. I mean, it just goes to say that I'm using more materials. It takes more time, especially it takes more time because these lids that I make, you've seen me make the lids if you've been watching, those take more time for me to make, right? So I add that cost in. So this is an upgrade. But when you're doing those things, you can kind of find which items sell first. Like, oh, this one just, boom, it just off the shelf, right? Whereas the other one, like this plain one that I have over here, this one right here, I think that's the same one, but this one, where are you? Where are you? I can't find it. Stop that. Anyway, the plain one with no logo on the front, which I think is this one right here, will sit a little bit longer than all the ones with the logo. Now, people actually do want them without the logo sometimes. They're like, oh, can you make one without the logo? Yeah, absolutely. So I always try to mix at least one or two in that don't have the logo. They may not sell as quickly, but they do still sell. So you know, when you find those things that are like your premium, like your best sellers, concentrate on those, but don't forget the people who may not want that feature. Just, maybe prioritize those towards the end of your run or whatever, so that you can get the items that they want out a little quicker. So this is my, not this one, this is my best selling base. I can sell these things like this. They just off the shelf. And that's because I have the value of the logo on there. See if I can, there we go. So there's the logo right there. And you can see how nice that looks. I don't do anything extra, like I don't paint that black or anything. That's just because when it's carved with the CNC machine, that wood in there is rougher than all of this surrounding wood. So it soaks up more stain. So it stays darker and accentuates the logo and really makes it pop and stand out from the rest of it. So I don't have to do any extra work in staining or anything else, but it looks really nice. And that is one of the things that sells. Like this one right here, it's a really pretty base, but will it sell? It'll sell. It's not going to be my first sale though. The other ones will be my first sale. The other thing is I find that if you get wood patterns, the wood grain, even though everyone's different, everybody's like, oh, what's the difference? I'll say, well, basically between these two, it's the wood grain. The wood grain, well, obviously this one has the wood grain, but if you look, these are kind of similar. These are fairly straight grain. If I get some, like if you look at the top of this one, I mean, look at the pattern and stuff. People like that. I find better than straight grain. So if it has some really defined wood grain, now the straight grain is easier and more stable for me. But like I said, you got to give the people what they want. So just identify those things that, the little things like what sells first. If you put a whole bunch of things, why did one thing sell faster than the other, right? What made them pick that one over the other two or three, which were similar, but maybe had some slight differences, and then kind of focus on those things as your best sellers. So, all right, let us move back. Go here, and let's see if I'm back now. I should be. There we go. So anyway, I just wanted to take some time because I had spent some time photographing, and it takes me a little while to photograph those, but it pays dividends at the end if I can photograph them. And I take them into my computer and I go put them in Lightroom and I process them all and make them look pretty and crop them and everything else. Not really necessary. That's extra steps that I take because like I said, my whole thing is I'm trying to really differentiate my bases from anyone else's. If you see two photographs of bases, you'll instantly know which one's mine and which one's somebody else's. So that's the other reason why I finish all my stuff. There's people who sell things in an unfinished state, and which is fine, but I can tell you that the more people who buy these things would rather have a finished base than one that that's like raw wood. I mean, it's all assembled and stuff, but there's no finish on it. And they charge almost as much as I do. So I think mine is the better value. I know I'm biased, but I think the bias is justified. The bias is justified. So speaking of finishing, we have 3 bases here that need to be finished. And so we've got, the other day I had one of the lids was not working out the way I wanted it to. So I, in the off times, I took and cut a new lid on the CNC machine, and then I flattened it down so it looks like this. So it's quite lovely and ready to roll. So these are what we're going to work on today, and we need to do a couple things. So these are maple and walnut. They're not only maple, but these are figured maple. There's different names for it. Figure maple, you can, depending on the figure pattern. I'm trying to get a picture where, I don't know how well you can see the figure on these. And that's the thing. These are very highly figured. I just don't know if you can see the figure in them. I mean, these are gorgeous. But there are different finishes that will accentuate that. And so part of what we're going to do is look and see if we can find a finish that will accentuate the figure in these and still keep them looking very nice. And I don't want them to be overly dark, but I would like to accentuate the figure in them. So we're going to explore a couple of different options for doing this. I'm not going to stain them per se. We may dye them. We'll get there. But I'm not going to stain them. I'm going to put a finish on them, but I want the finish that's going to give them the best. The thing is, with the walnut's a beautiful wood that really requires no work. Any sort of top coat you put on a piece of walnut is going to look amazing. You don't need to change the color of walnut. I mean, that's why people use walnut, right? It's dark, it's beautiful. Usually any type of like an oil-based finish on walnut looks amazing. I mean, it just really looks fantastic. So what these need is they need to have the edges rounded. So we need to do our little round over trick on all these edges just to make them soft. You know, we don't want them to be overly done. They need to be sanded to a finish sand of about 220 is where we need to go with them. And they're not bad right now, but we do need to get them down to about 220. The insides have already been done. I did that before I glued them together, just because it's easier than trying to sand while it's in, after assembly. So I usually sand the insides before assembly. I save the outsides for later. So these do need to be sanded. They need to be rounded over, and then they need to be finished. And that's kind of what we need to look at, is what kind of finish we want to apply to these, because like I said, figured maple, there are some choices to be made, and you can get some different results. Now, I have already started this process, and I have some different stains that I have been using. I don't want to get too much glare on here. This is, it's actually a piece of wood left over from when I made this. It has some figure in it. You'll find some chatoyance in here and such. It's got some, this piece of wood has some what they call quilting in there, which is bigger. Basically, figure in a tree is kind of like a, well, in the tree it would be a defect, but when you're a woodworker, it's an enhancement to the item. And what happens is as the tree is growing, any place where, usually where the tree takes a turn, it compresses the fibers and creates these like ripple patterns in there. And when the tree gets milled up, those ripple patterns come out and just look amazing. So you'll see, like in the back of a violin or whatever, they call that fiddleback, because you'll see these just stripes in the grain that come down. Some people will call that flame. There's quilted, which is bigger patches and such. But all of those are the same process, where what's happening is those wood fibers, as the tree's growing, get compressed, and it does weird kind of crazy things to the fibers. But when you mill that up and you cut it, it just makes some amazing patterns in the wood. And that's what we're trying to accentuate. Maple, being such a blonde, like almost a white wood, is really tough to stain. It does not accept stain really well. I could put a dark stain on here, and when you wipe it off, it'll still kind of just look light. You're not going to get a really dark stain on this to go really well. Usually if you want maple to be dark, you have to do a dye. So stain usually sits on the surface of the wood more. A dye soaks into the wood fibers and holds that color better. And that's one of the things we're going to explore because, as you can see, all of these, I mean, okay, so this is tung oil finish down here, which is not bad. It's an oil-based finish. There is a really nice chatoyance to this. The chatoyance is the way the light kind of dances in here and makes it look like 3D qualities to the grain. This is a Danish oil, and it was, what did I use here? So this was a dark walnut. So this is just a Danish oil with a dark walnut. It does have pigment in there, so it does add a little bit of color, and you can see there's a color variance between like this one and this one. This one, just a little bit of amber in that tung oil finish, so a little bit darker. Let me show you. So I'll hold up just a regular piece of, so there you can see the color changes in there. So just a little bit of color with the tung oil finish. The dark walnut added a little color, but I'm not really crazy about it. It kind of, yeah, this one doesn't really do it for me. This is a natural Danish oil, so that's another good choice right here. And the Danish oil is nice because it does have a finish in it. It's an oil but with a varnish in it, so it does add some protection to your product, and so that's really nice. And then this last one right here, which is usually one of the ones that is the best clear coat for, yeah, so this was Danish oil, this was natural. So just a little bit of you can see the color is just a little amber, but it didn't change the color too much, just a little bit, right? And then we've got which also, not a lot of color change right here. This is shellac. So this is clear shellac, you can get amber shellac. I was trying to get like a quart container of shellac so I could brush it on. They did not have any at the store yesterday, so I had to just get the old spray can. But this is just bullseye shellac. This is clear coat. Shellac is a great finish. It's a great way to, people use it as what they call a seal coat or a sanding coat. If you're applying a dye to a product, it's great to put a layer of shellac over it, and then you can sand that flat, and then you can put a finish over top. You can put almost any finish you want over top of shellac. So if you wanted to do like a lacquer finish or a, what else could you put on top of that? Like a polyurethane finish or something like that. Generally what you would do is you would spray it with shellac. After you put your stain on or whatever, you spray it with shellac, then you can put your top coat on, and that shellac acts as a barrier so that you're not affecting the colorization underneath. And so shellac is it's an all natural finish. It really does well for figured wood too. Now, like I said, this doesn't have a lot of that figure in it, but I do have some pieces here that I've pulled that were either cuts that we didn't use, like this and this one. So these were sized, these had a little anomaly in there, so we couldn't end up using these, but they have some great, let me see if I can show you these. They have some great figure in them. So you can see kind of the figure in this one, especially like if you look up in this area right here, and there's another view that this has some really nice figure going on in it. And then we have these smaller pieces, but these have some really nice, like, yeah, you can see it. So these got the flame in it. And so that's what we want to look at is like, how does that flame look with some different types of finish on there? So my thought is that we can maybe look at either doing a clear finish on these, which I would probably go with the shellac. The shellac is probably going to be my best bet. And really shellac is nice because it, let me go back to one. Shellac's nice because it sprays on, it dries super fast. It's kind of like lacquer. It dries on really quickly. It lays on easily, dries quickly, like 15 minutes and it's dry. And then you sand between coats just to take the rough parts down, and you can build up several coats really quickly. So shellac is really nice for that, and shellac does a good job of showing off figure. Not the best, but not bad. And I would really like these to pop. So what we're going to try is we're going to try a little dye stain. Different than stain. Stain, like I said, lays on the top. Dye soaks in. But what we're going to do is we're going to put some some dye on these, then we're going to sand that dye off, and then we will apply a little bit more, we'll sand it off, and what that does is it soaks into the curly parts here. It'll soak in to the flamey parts, but on the surface it'll be the smooth wood. So what that does is it makes those flames just really kind of pop and jump out. So I have a little dye that we might use. I've got some amber. I've got some, actually, you know what? I have some that we might use that's a little bit more, well, no, it's a little yellow. I'm a little bit more brown because, you know, I kind of want something that's going to match the side there. So something a little brown. I do have some brown. I can mix that in some alcohol. Alcohol is kind of nice because you can do it in water. These dyes that I have, you can mix them in alcohol or you can mix them in water. The alcohol evaporates off faster. So if you want faster results, you do it in like a denatured alcohol mix, and then the alcohol flashes out faster, and then you're just left with the dye inside. So it kind of is a faster way to achieve a finish. Problem with that is it's also because it does dry faster, you kind of have to make sure that it's laid down really smooth and flat. But you can always go back with just some alcohol on a rag and clean up any like wipe marks or anything. So it's nice. So if you haven't used dye stains before, really great. People have different ways of doing it. I mean, go on Google and just look it up. There's lots of different stains. I have not pulled any out. Let me go pull one out and I'll show you what I use typically. Let me look at my cabinet over here and find the one that I want here. Is this the brown? That's amber. Don't want amber. Here we go. This is I've got a dark mission brown. Now the funny thing, I'll pull the amber out. So shake. Actually had some. Is that hardened? Good God. Sorry. Just looking at some stuff I had in here. I had some stuff already mixed up, and brown and amber. I'm going to pull this one out too. So I have some stuff that's already mixed, and I keep it in a jar. So here we go. This is stuff in a jar. So this says brown and amber. This is the amber, and you can see it actually looks really dark in here. This stuff is super concentrated. This is by TransTint, so it's a very concentrated dye solution. This one is a Mission Brown, also a very concentrated dye solution. And by the way, gloves are a must when you're doing this stuff because it will dye your fingers, and it takes a while to get it cleaned off. All right, so that's kind of what we're going to look at is applying some of this to the sample pieces over here. And let me get this stuff out of the, actually, I'm going to move all of these cans and put them in my cabinet over here because I don't need them right now. I was at Walmart yesterday and they had semi-gloss lacquer and I was like, yay, I can't find it over there very often. So when I get it, I grab it and run with it because I'm a little bit of a hoarder when it comes to semi-gloss lacquer sometimes because it's not in stock all the time. And like I said, Walmart usually has the best price on the semi-gloss. It's usually like $7.50 a can. It's more like $10 to $12 anywhere else you buy the exact same stuff. So when I find it, I'm like, ooh, hoard. And I think I may have I didn't buy every single thing they had, but I may have left one can behind. Anyway, so we can try, well, we won't try the amber because amber, usually what I will do is if I'm trying to use a brown, if I want to lighten it up and add just a hint of amber or gold or yellowish to it, then I will add a drop or two of amber to a brown to kind of get that warmer brown feel. But I actually have some already mixed up here. Actually, this may be lacquer. I think that's lacquer. So I won't be using this. Woo! Oh my golly. Sorry, I just got took me a minute to come down from that one. Whoo! So the thing about dyes is you can actually mix them into lacquer. So usually what I'll do is I'll pour in I've got a can of lacquer and I will pour that into a jar along with some lacquer thinner because it sprays easier that way. And then I will mix in drops of the dye and then I can actually spray that color on with my spray gun. So that's what this is. This is not a stored in water or alcohol. That is, whew, that is 100% lacquer and lacquer thinner. And wow, do not breathe heavily over that. You will not come down for a week. Whew, stuck my nose right in there. Anyway, so we aren't gonna use that. I was just showing you that you can mix this stuff up, and I mix it up and keep it in there. But what we will do is I'll just get a little cup, put some alcohol in there, and we'll put a couple of drops of the dye in, and then we'll try it on some pieces of wood here just to see what it looks like. And then after that dries, we can try a couple of the different top coats over top of it, like the tung oil finish or the shellac, and see if it makes a big difference. So let's see, what do we want to do here? Let me find a cup. I'm gonna move this over here. I think I have a camera set up for the workstation over here. Yeah, so we've got this over here, and we are going to have our samples here. So let me I'm gonna use these samples right here, because these are really nice. They have some nice flame in them. Like I said, you can't really see the flame really well in there, but it's there. So we will do that. I'm gonna get a cup here. I've got these little, kind of like little Dixie cup things. And I'm just gonna put some alcohol in there. Find my denatured alcohol. I need to get more denatured alcohol. But anyway, just, you can get this at Lowe's, Home Depot, whatever. You can buy it in bigger containers too. I don't use a lot of this stuff. Usually when I mix these, I mix them with water. And water lets you push the dyes around a little bit more and do a lot more blending and mixing. And so I usually use water because it's, like I said, it's a longer work time with the actual materials. But for our purposes, the alcohol is going to work great, because that's all we want to do. Is we want to get the dye in there, get it to flash off so that it's set and dries really quickly, and then sand it and do another coat. So we may do like 2 or 3 coats on one and maybe 1 or 2 coats on the other to see the difference, and then apply a couple of finishes on top. See the difference there too. Nice thing is I've got 2 sides, so I can do it on 2 different sides. So you've got 2 different test surfaces for each piece of wood. So that's the other thing too, is I could let me get another cup here. So I could do one in just a Mission Brown, and then I could also do another one where I could put a couple of drops of some amber in there. Now these are used. So let me get these out of the way. So this will be fun, right? A little experimentation. I do need a set of gloves. So I'm gonna go over here on my shelves and grab some gloves. Because like I said, this stuff will make your hands very messy. You don't want the messy hands. Mineral spirits, we don't want mineral spirits. And I'm just gonna grab the whole roll of paper towels. I need to get more of these too. Should have gotten more. So I've got my roll of paper towels right here. You can see those. I'm going to widen out just a little bit. That's a little close. Let's widen out just a hair here, shall we? Boop. There we go. Just a little bit wider. And yeah. All right. These have been sanded already. So I sanded these. I took the time to sand these to 220. I'm going to find the best side on this one. It's probably this one and this one. These have been sanded to 220 grit. Like I said, if you're going to be doing dye stuff, you're better off sanding to that finer grit. If you were going to be doing, I don't know, like just a stain or something, you would probably want to stop at 150 or so to do the staining, because you want that little bit more rough, porous surface for the stain to sit into. Like I said, dye soaks in. It has no problem soaking in. The stain sits on top more, so the more surface you have for that, the more rough the surface is to hold on to that stain, the better it's going to be. Like, I wouldn't stop at 60 or 80 grit because that's ridiculous, but 150, you could probably stop and do your staining, and then you can do a top coat, which will be nice and smooth on top of that. So let me ingest a little coffee. Coffee good. And then let me get my little key opener here. I don't know where I got this, but I love this thing. It just opens containers. It's awesome. And let's be experimental here, shall we? So I'm going to get my two dye stains. And like I said, you can buy stains. I got these on eBay, or no, eBay, on, I got one of them at Woodcraft. One of them I think I got at, on Amazon, but you can buy different dye stains. And people use different types of dye stains. People use, there's leather stains. I can't remember the name of them, but there are people who use Angelus leather stains is I think what they are. There's a guy, Big D Guitars, if you want to look at YouTube, he has a ton of finishing, which actually applies to a lot of wood products. So even if you're not making guitars, if you want really pretty finishes on figured woods and things like that, he does some amazing finishes, and he has a huge YouTube channel. So go on there and check out his stuff. He's got some really great stuff, Big D Guitars, and he uses a ton of stains because he has a lot of maple stuff, and so he does a lot of those. Now this is the amber. I don't want the amber yet. So here is my Mission Brown. I'm going to start with, I don't know, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drops there. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. I'm going to do 3 drops in that one. Okay, so I did 5 drops here, 3 drops here. I'm going to add 2 drops of amber to this one. Like I said, the amber is just going to kind of make it a little more golden. 1, 2, oh, maybe 3. And then I will add some alcohol to this because, like I said, these dyes are very concentrated. Could probably use some more alcohol to thin that out, but now normally what I would do is I would use a like a fabric pad to do this because the fabric soaks up and holds the liquid longer. You have to be really careful with this stuff because you don't want too much of it because then how do you get rid of it, right? I don't know if you can see the difference on the sides there. This is the amber, this is just the brown only. So this is amber and brown right here, brown only right here. So what I'm going to do is just get a paper towel and I'm going to just tear it in half. And I'm just going to make some blotters to blot this stuff with, to apply it and rub it onto the wood. So we'll hold that one right there and do the same with this one. Because you just want something to dip in. It has to be small enough I can dip it in. So just like that, making a little pad. If you were doing a big area, like I said, you might want to make like old t-shirts are great, white t-shirts, not colored ones, but white t-shirts. You cut up some stuff, cut up a big square, you wad it up, and then you make like a little ball, then you put that into another pad, and then you close it around there. That's kind of how you also do like one of the shellac finishes. But all I'm going to do, move this out of the way, is take this dye and I'm going to work it into the wood here. All right. Now, I don't know if you can see, look at you can see that flame already coming out on there. So that looks really cool. So we're going to do that. And I'm going to set this aside. Now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to get this one and just get some on here. And we're going to do the same thing over here and just rub it in. Now this I think is going to be a little bit more subtle than the other. Maybe a little much amber in there. So now you can see, and you can see the color difference here. So just the Mission Brown on this one right here. This one is the Mission Brown in amber. But you can really see how it brings out the stuff. And this is actually, man, I like that alcohol. It just kind of really flashes off really nicely. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this over and do another coat on the back so that they're equal on both sides, because I'm going to use this for also checking out some top coating options on top of that. All right. So I'm going to rub this in really well. I'm trying to get that dye to really soak in there. Now, if I wanted this to be darker, I could add more stain. right? So I can add a couple more drops of stain in there if I want. In fact, I think I'm going to do that on this one. Is this my mission? Yeah. I'm going to add a couple more drops in here. Now this stuff is not the cheapest of dyes. This is, and actually I'm going to add a little bit more to this one too. Just a couple more drops. There we go. This stuff is about $21 a bottle, but you can see I use it by the drop. So that $21 goes a long way. I mean, you look at it and go, oh my gosh, it's so expensive. But honestly, it goes a long way. You don't spend a ton of money. There we go. That's got a little bit more color to it now. I want that amber to really pop on here. And we will turn it over and we will put some on this side. Just load it up a little bit more and really get this worked in. Now this one doesn't have as much figure as the other one does. That other piece has a lot of figure on there. And I'm going to have these set. See if I blow on these, that alcohol on the surface is almost flash clean. So really it does not take long for this stuff to dry. I mean, it's already, I don't know if you can see that, but it's already where I was blowing on it. It's already starting to flash dry. These are already, you can see where it's a couple of wet areas there, but mostly it dries pretty quickly. And so because I didn't do a really dark stain on here, I'm gonna load this up again. I'm trying to get as much stain as I can in that figured wood. And in here, you can really start to see that figure really starting to pop on here. And that's the whole goal with this stuff, is you really want to get it in that figure and then just have that figure stand out. We don't want all the surface wood to be stained. Oop, don't switch your pads here. We don't want that surface wood to really hold a lot of that color. We just want that color in the actual figure, which is deeper in the wood. So if you go to sand this stuff, it's not going to be sanded off as easily. So there we go. I should have done these over at the other table actually, because then we could kind of work on the other stuff. I'll tell you what, let me, I'm gonna rearrange a couple of things here. And that way we can kind of multitask. So while this stuff is flashing off a little bit, we will be able to maybe do our roundovers or some sanding or something. Actually, I might sand them first. So just do a little finish sanding on them before we do the roundovers. If you've watched me do some of these before, I got to get rid of this stuff. Actually, I'll put the shellac up here. If you've watched me do this stuff before, you've seen that I will usually take these to 150 grit prior to doing my roundovers, because I find if I do the roundovers first and I do 150 grit, it tends to sharpen the edge of that roundover again. And that's not the effect I want. So, coffee is so good. I'm really leaning towards the Mission Brown as instead of the amber. The amber is okay, but that Mission Brown, I think it's going to match nicely with the walnut. I think that'll be the ticket. Let me finish this. Hang on. Then I can get this out of the way. Get the coffee cup out of the way. I'm going to move this over here, I think. Let me pull this in. I didn't think this out this morning, did I? I have to lower my saw blade because I don't want to scratch anything. Saw blade was kind of up in the air. We do this. There we go. All right. I just need a place to set stuff. And then we can do some sanding. I'm going to go ahead and grab a fresh piece of 150 grit sandpaper so that we can get a nice finish on this stuff. I have some pieces over here to the side that I've used, but I think I want to get a fresh piece. Will work better. This also has some shavings from when I was planing down. I don't like to just spend my time sanding for you guys because I find that can be a little boring, but you know, we kind of have to do what we need to do. There's a piece of 220. This is 150. So get that lined up on the holes here. And then I'm going to give this a nice sand across the surface here. Now it's pretty smooth already. Just kind of looking at it. But I do see like jointer marks or planer marks or whatever. And I need to get all those out before we start laying down some dye, because the dye will accentuate anything that's left over, gets accentuated by that dye, which by the way is looking pretty good here. And you can see, and probably what I'll do is when I get done with these, I'll pull these over and sand these. They should be dry by then that I can sand them, and we'll see what that looks like. Let me grab my ears here, and we're just going to do, like I said, we're going to do some sanding on these and clean up these sides. So let's go ahead and get started with that. I think I'm plugged in. I think I've got everything in good shape here. So let's go ahead and do that. Off real quick. All right, so this one is done. These have already been sanded, by the way, so I sanded this part already. So before I actually grab the next one, I think, and let me set this to the side so I know which ones have been done. Before I get to that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this piece right here, and I'm going to just sand this off now, and let's see what it looks like. So this is before sanding right here. Let me get a better camera view for you. All right, so this is before sanding and this is after sanding. But hopefully what you can see is in these areas right here, that stuff before where it was really super blonde and hard to see, now that just shows up. It's a little bit darker, a little bit more pronounced. We've still got this nice, clean, kind of lighter color wood up here, but that is much more pronounced now. And you can see like areas up here where the stain is kind of like dripped over the edge. That's the darkness, but you can see we've removed most of that and we've just left some of that color, some of that accent darkness in the fibers there. And that's what we're going after. So let me sand this side too. I'm going to run these again and I'm going to dye them one more time. All right, and you can, there you go, there's the other side done. It just leaves behind a little bit of color there. You can see that much brighter, much lighter here, a little bit of tint to it, but not much. So let's go ahead and tint these one more time real quick here. I'm not really impressed with the amber too much. I'll sand that one off as well, but I want to get another coat of this on here and see if 2 coats really makes this stuff pop. So we'll see. So there's one on there, and we'll just get a little bit more on here. Because the more you do this, you know, you've sanded off, but then you're just letting more of this dye soak in to those curly figures, and it really, hopefully, the more you do this, got a lid there. The more you do this, the more it really gets that to accentuate. All right, so let's go ahead and let this one dry. Oh, that looks so nice. I don't know if you can see that, but this I think is going to be, I think that's going to be our plan, is we're going to just use some of that on these. Let's go ahead and We'll sand this one down just to see what it looks like. I'm not really digging on the amber look to it though. I think that might distract some from the brownness of the walnut. But anyway, let's see what this looks like. About that. I need to fire my camera operator because he's slipping. This one, much more subtle. Much more subtle on the pattern being visible. So I think the darker color really adds depth to those ripples. And that's what you're kind of going for, is you're going for a depth effect. You really want that look of three-dimensional wood as opposed to flat wood. It's hard to explain. But as you're doing this, you will get more wood depth. I can barely see any difference on this one. So I think that amber, I'm not digging that. So that's probably going to be a no-go for us, which is okay. I'm going to do one of these largy figurey pieces like this and do it with the brown as well. So I'm going to take this piece of wood right here and put some of this brown on here and see what that looks like. Because, like I said, some of this has some really outstanding figure in it. And we're trying to accent that. That's the whole reason that I chose this wood over just plain maple. Plain maple's pretty, but it's also can be pretty boring. Whereas this, not so boring, has some really lovely figure to it. So I'll just leave the one side there while we let that dry. And then this one, yeah, we're just getting more and more inside that figure there, and that looks good. So I might hit this one more time just to really get this stuff to pop. Squeeze some of the remaining dye out of here. Okay, now I'll go work on another base over here while this is drying. Like I said, the nice thing is the alcohol, it dries so quickly on the hand that I don't have to worry about carrying that over. Like I can touch this wood, I can touch this wood right here with my glove and there's nothing coming off because that alcohol dries so quickly when it's not concentrated. So you get a little bit on your fingers and it just dries right up. All right, let's do some more sanding here. Another little trick, like if you just take a pencil and do a pencil mark, by the time that pencil mark is gone, you pretty much are done sanding with that grit. I'm just gonna clean off, take a little brush and clean off my, black is never a good shirt to wear when you're sanding. But anyway, all right. All right, so this one's done. Looks nice. Put this lid back with it so we know who goes where. And let's see how our test subject looks here. So this should be dry. And so right now, I mean, this is with the dye back on there again. Let's go ahead and sand this off and see how good that looks. Let's try. All right. So that looks pretty good. If you can see that we've got some really good accenting of the flame going on here. I don't know how well the camera's picking it up, but it looks pretty nice. And then what we might do is actually put a little, well, I'm gonna put some shellac over top of this. And actually, you know what? Let me just, I'm gonna hit this one side with some shellac just to see if that brings it out a little bit while I sand this last box over here. We're just gonna, shellac is a really weird thing. It's made from beetles. I can't explain it, but it is. It's made from beetles. Now I probably should sand this to 220 before I shellac it, but I'm gonna hit this again real quick here. Just get a nice coating of shellac on there, and then we'll come back and check that in a minute. Let's go ahead and get this last one sanded down. And once we get it sanded down, we can go ahead. I will move this test operation over to here, and we'll set up the router table. And we will do some routing of these corners, because these are very sharp corners. We want to get these corners down. If you notice when I'm sanding, I spend a little extra time on these ends, because these dovetails, like the wood on this side, on the tails, that's end grain, and then on the pins down here, this is all end grain right here on this maple. So I want to make sure that I'm getting a really good sanding on those end grain portions of the wood, because that will make them look nicer in the end. Let me just clean off my, just give a little brushing to the sandpaper here, get anything out of the stuff. Let's go ahead and do this one. All right, that is that. That's done. I like it. Looks good. I think we did well. This, now this actually has uh, like a coat of, um, has a coat of shellac on top of it. And this has nothing on top. So you can see, let me go over here again. If you look at what the shellac does, the shellac actually makes that much more visible. This is no shellac on there, so you can still see not a lot of pop to it, but when I put that shellac on there, that figure really starts to pop out there. Look at all this up and through here is all figure in here. Just really, look at that. You can see it kind of changing and moving, and that's the 3D effect I'm talking about. That's the chatoyance, if you will, and that's what shellac does. Now, the other thing I wanted to try while I've got this here is I want to try a different finish on top of this besides shellac. And what I liked the best here, I think, of all of these that I tried, I had these 3 samples right here. And I think the one that I kind of enjoyed the most was this tung oil finish right here. It's not the most easy to use because it requires some dry time and stuff, but I might move that over to here. I think I'm done with these dies, and I'm going to get another piece of paper towel and clean the lids off of here because this stuff, like I said, it's messy. You don't want this stuff getting on you. So I'm going to wipe off the dye off of the top of the lid here. And you can see if this stuff drips or whatever, it's just like, it's there. It's just there. So I'm going to try to clean this off a little bit because I do not want to get any just concentrated dye on anything. That would not be good. And then get some off of here. Excuse me, I beg your pardon. That is unexpected. Hopefully that's not going to be my normal pattern of sneeze every 30 seconds until I blow my nose, but it might be. All right, I'm going to put these over here. Those little lids are on really well. I don't know what to do with the dyes though. I've got 2 cups of dye here that I do not want to knock these over. So normally I would just let that evaporate out and be done with it. The nice thing about dye stain is that it, oh shoot, I probably should have kept that because I was going to move that over here. Let me get this out of the way. Get this over here and let me move my little piece of finishing cardboard over here. I do have this one. I have not sanded this one off yet. Let me do that because I want to see what this looks like. So we're gonna fire this back up and sand this one off real quick. So I could actually, I have 2 extremes here to show you. Well, this got a little color just because I laid it down. But, so this is nothing on there. This was nothing. This is with that dye stain sanded off. And you can hopefully see, look at all this figure up in here that's really accentuated from that dye stain. So that looks pretty cool. I like that. So we might go with that. That might be a good option for us. I'm thinking I might put a drop of amber in there though, just to warm this up just a touch. That's a little cool, I think. That's just a little, that brown is just a little cold. Whereas this actually has a little bit more warmth in it. I think it just turns it a little bit more towards the cool end of the spectrum when I put this Mission Brown on there. I might drop just a drop of amber dye into that when we start doing that. In the meantime, what was I going to do here? Oh, I've got this. So this side, like I said, we did with the shellac. This side I'm going to put a just a little bit of tung oil finish on there, and then we'll go over and use the router here while this is kind of baking, so to speak. But I'm going to get another paper towel here. I don't need a big piece of paper towel. I'll tear this kind of down into a save a piece for later. And just getting a little bit that I can use as an applicator pad. Because like I said, I don't need a lot. I just need a little bit of tung oil on here. Because it's just a small piece of wood. Normally what I would do is if I was going to be doing this to a larger piece, I would just put this in a cup and make it easier to use. But let's go ahead and spread this on. And see what effect the tung oil has. Now it does pull a little bit of the color, but not much. Just a little bit. I know I need to blow my nose, and I apologize if I'm sniffing in your ear here. I'll take care of that in just a second. That looks really pretty though. You can see kind of how that gets all shiny and three-dimensional looking. Hopefully you can see that in the camera. So that looks pretty nice. I like that. And this is the shellac side, and this is the tung oil side. And you know what? I'll forget. So I'm going to TO and draw an arrow up there, and then SH, and then draw an arrow to the side that's going to, so that I can remember which side is which. But I'm going to put a little bit more of this tung oil on. The thing with the oils and with this grain is that the oil soaks in. So you want to cover it with as much product as it will take, and then you let it sit, and then you wipe any excess off a few minutes later. So you really want this stuff to soak into the grain, because remember, the tung oil finish does have a finish in it. It has like a varnish or something inside there. So you really want to be sure that you're getting this covered best as possible. I kind of like that. That does not look bad at all. This one that we just did, I'm going to put some tung oil on this one too, just to see. This was only one coat of, get all that off of there. This was just one coat. Oh my, oh my, oh my, as George Takei would say. Oh my, look at that. Look at that. Oh my, that looks lovely. We didn't stain this side, so I'm just going to leave it on here. This was with the tung oil. Ah, that's nice. Now it soaks in, like I said, so I'm just going to keep applying it until it's sitting on the surface and not soaking in. But that looks splendiferous. Also, I think this was sanded. Was I say? No, I sanded at 150. So I would sand this to 220 normally. But that looks spectacular. I like that a lot. So it may be that we do a little dye and a little tung oil finish on these. That might be the way we go. I mean, the shellac is nice. And I just think I'm getting a little bit more response from that tung oil. I like the tung oil. It looks nice. This looks fantastic. That's great. So anyway, I think that's where we're going to go. But right now, I think where we're going to go is back over here. We're going to set this up for some, I'm going to put these back over here where they live. And then we're going to put these over here where they live. And then we will get set up for doing some, some trimming on the edges of these things. You can get all these edges super smooth and rounded, which means I need to, your invoice was sent, thank you, 9 minutes ago. Should have been sent sooner than that. Sorry, just checking messages here. Just checking messages. All right, Peloton is recalling all of its treadmills after a child's death and numerous injuries. Well, that's not good, Peloton. Then again, why are kids on treadmills? People don't actually let their kids use treadmills, do they? I mean, I'm a full-size adult, and treadmills can be tricky. I've seen adults just come crashing down on treadmills. I've seen more injuries on a treadmill than any other piece of gym equipment. I used to go to a gym at work. They had a lot of treadmills and stuff, and yeah, treadmills not super safe all the time. So I'm not sure if people were actually letting kids use a treadmill or play around a treadmill, but not my idea of a piece of playground equipment, that is for sure. All right, that's off. We've got our lovely little roundover bit. An 1/8 inch roundover is what we're going for here. Tighten this in. And if you excuse me 1 second, I'm going to mute and blow my nose. Oh, so much better now. I didn't think you wanted to hear that, so I muted you, but that's so much better. All right, we've got the 1/8 inch roundover in here. We are going to lower this down. I'm going to put this one back in. It's probably a little larger than I need, but it'll work for the moment. I'm going to lock this in. So that's my plate. I can actually just use one of these as the roundover. So I'm going to set, because I always test my roundover. I don't just jump right into my finished product. I like to make sure that I've tested it on a piece of scrap to ensure that the roundover I'm getting is exactly what I want, which that looks to be. I also need to move my power plug over to the router. So we will do that now. Get power plugged in. I'm going to just have a some fan. Take this off. We just want some vacuum here to kind of pick up any excess stuff flying around. And yeah, let's set this up. Let's go. Okay, so I did the round over on all the sides here and the corners. Got a little burning on a couple of corners, but this will all kind of clean up with some sanding. This is why I don't do my finish sand before I do this. I save the finish sand for last, and that allows me to clean up any little edges or imperfections that I get from that round over. Especially because some of these are end grain, and end grain, I don't care what you're doing on end grain. It's gonna throw you a couple little curveballs. But anyway, that feels really nice. I have to hand sand these. I'm gonna break the edge on these handles right here. I will hand sand those just to do a really light break. Break the edge just lightly. But that's pretty good right there. So we can move from this one to the next one. Set this over here. Grab this next one right here, and we'll just keep going. I think what I will do though is I'm going to do I'll do the bottom and the top edges all the way around the perimeters, and then I'll do the edges because that will help me to avoid a little chip out there in the end. I think you don't know until you do one, but I think that will probably be the best bet for this. Let's see if I can get this up a little higher here. It'd be good if I could get this up a little bit higher here. You know what I'm going to do is let me grab this clamp, and I'm just going to clamp this onto here. There we go. Just to kind of keep this in place, let it suck as it's kind of spitting that way. So. All right, I had one tiny little chip out happen, and I think I can save it. I take these ears off. I've had them on for so long. It's like, wow. I think I can save it. It was a really, really small chip out. You can't even see it on here, but it is there. And what I'm going to do is I was able to kind of get it back into place. I'm going to use my a little knife here to get it really seated back in. I'm going to grab my super glue and my accelerator, and I'm going to just put a drop of glue in this area. I have one more to do, but this is the problem with ingrain. Ingrain is just, it's a problem. Creates chip outs and things that you just can't anticipate always. All right, I'm just going to put a drop of glue on here to kind of get this to set up like that. I'm trying to keep it out of the end grain. And then I will just hit this with a drop of accelerator. I just sprayed some accelerator on here, and that will get that piece to lock in, hopefully. All right. Like I said, it's just one of those things. I mean, it's end grain is tough to handle with a router. All right. But hopefully you can see that, you know, doing that edge route, not only does it give me just a nice line here, but it just gives a nice, like down along the bottom here, it's just a really nice shadow line. And it just helps to separate your workpiece from whatever it's sitting on. Like if I bring this one over, this one has not been done. You notice the difference. This one has no shadow line to it. So there's no separation from this to this surface, as opposed to, let me bring another one over now. So now you can see that little bit of shadow line along the bottom. And that's what that round over does. It serves two purposes. It makes it aesthetically more pleasing to the hand, or tactilely, you know, it feels better. But it also adds this really nice shadow line to the bottom that this one does not have right now, but will in just a moment. So I'm going to do this last one right here, and then we can do the finish sanding on these. But this needs to be done. So I'm going to put this. This actually worked out pretty well having this right here. Doesn't catch all the dust, but I kind of try to push the dust towards the hose over here. The hose is over right here. So I try to push the dust towards the hose as best I can. All right, ears back on, and let's do this last base here. All right. Well, we've got the round over done. I'm going to go ahead and lower this down out of the way. I have to get it caught. There we go. So let me get this out of the way, and let me grab my cover plate that has no hole in it. Right here is no hole cover plate. We're going to put that back in place, and that just kind of keeps stuff from falling down inside. That. Put this away. All right, so we've got these all done now. So the next thing we need to do is put a little finish sanding on them. Like I said, I like to wait until I get that round over done. Then I do the finish sanding. Now there is some roughness. There's a little line. There's some stuff that needs to be worked off, but all that can be done with a finish sand. It's all kind of superficial kind of stuff. I'm going to go grab a fresh piece of 220 sandpaper. If I can find some in here, 220, there we go. So I'm going to grab a fresh 220 out of here. All right. So I've got my fresh 220 right here. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit more for you. A little bit wider. There we go. There we go. That's a little wider for you. Since I moved all my stuff to do staining over this way, I'm going to do the sanding over here. I think that will be a little better. I do not need this now. This is 150. I'm going to put the 220 on here. I'm going to mark this with my marker. 220. I do that so that later on, when I pull this sandpaper off and it gets in a pile, it won't be obscured by dust, which happens quite often, and I can't see what the grit is. So if I just write it in a black magic marker, I find that it's easier to identify which grit I have down the road. All right, let's hook this back up to the dust collection, which is here. And then we have to switch power to the sander. Here we go. All right, now we can do some finish sanding on here. I don't know if this is going to work out or not, because my camera is actually attached to the table, and you can see as I jiggle it. So hopefully this won't create too many vibrations. Let's see. Okay. It's bad enough that I make you watch me do sanding, right? But to make you watch me do sanding and jiggle the crap out of the camera while I'm doing it, that's just unconscionable. So I'm not going to do that to you. I'm going to move this stuff back over here, and we'll go back to the table where we were, because I do not want that to be, that's fine. We'll leave that there for the moment. We'll go back over here, get this stuff out of the way. And yeah, I apologize for that jiggle cam. That was ridiculous. Okay, we're going to take a quick break because I have to answer a phone call here. So hang on just a moment. Hey there. Hey there. Hey there. Hey there. Hey there. Alrighty, sorry about that. I had to take a quick phone call. Which means I had to take my glove off. Now I don't know if I'll be able to get my glove back on. I don't know that. I don't actually need my glove right now. It's because I'm. This is my method of taking my gloves off. Is I kind of blow it up into a balloon and it pops right off. Because gloves aren't cheap. I mean, they're not super expensive, but they're not cheap either. So I think just to save some resources there, I try to use my gloves as much as I can or reuse them before I toss them off. All right, where was I? I was over here doing a little sanding. What time is it? It is 1 o'clock. I'm gonna just sand off on this one just a little bit. I'll sand this one down to 220. We'll look and see how it looks. And then I think what we'll probably do is call it after that because I have to go mail all those bases that I sold, which is awesome. But I've already got most of them boxed up. So that's kind of nice. I have a whole, I buy boxes in bulk that are the perfect size for them. I think I can't remember where I get them from. There's a company that, sells cardboard boxes and I got them in the size I need. And then I've got giant rolls of bubble wrap that I wrap them in. And so I've got a whole shipping thing that I do and I print my own shipping labels and all that good stuff. Because all of that saves me money in the long run. If I just show up with this at UPS, they'll be happy to wrap it and send it, but they'll charge me a lot of money. So I do most of that myself. And I need to, I just got paid for my last base that I was selling. That's the other thing too. I don't give people a lot of time to pay. I'll send an invoice and then they have 24 hours to pay that invoice, or I remove their hold on that item and put it back on the market. So I will hold it for 24 hours until they pay. And I always make them pay before I ship something. I know there's a trust issue there, but I've got a pretty good online presence and an excellent track record. So hopefully that's not a big thing. And also I let people pay by PayPal. So they can use their credit card, and that way I don't do the friends and family. A lot of people like that because it keeps it off the radar and it doesn't get reported on a 1099 or whatever. You know what? I'll pay my taxes. I'm a tax paying kind of guy. But I do and the other thing is, by letting them use their credit card, you allow them some buyer protection. So if something happens, they can go to their credit card company and say, hey, I didn't get what they said they did or whatever. I've never had anybody renege or try to screw me over that way. So like I said, it just offers some protection to the buyer. It gives them a sense of security because they do have to pay before I ship, just like anybody else would. So, and right here, receipt for your, okay, that's not it. Yeah, I just got paid, so nice. All right, let me go ahead and I've got the 220 on here. We were already set up to do this. Like I said, I shifted over to here. That way you're not gonna get all kind of vibrations. This thing's 300 plus pounds. It's pretty stable. That was on my, table saw, and because the camera is actually mounted to the table saw on an arm, it was like, so I apologize for that. But anyway, let's go ahead and sand this up, see how it looks, and we will call it a day. What did I do with did I put that in my pocket? Oh, there it is. It's hiding underneath here. I was looking for the remote. So, all right, 220 remote, let's go. Okay, so now one thing about my roundover is that sometimes it takes a little bit of an edge bite in, and it makes a little bit of a ridge, and I can't find a place to do that. So I don't want to take the 220 on the sander and just be aggressive in doing that roundover. Oh, here's one that I can sort of, hopefully I can show this to you. I don't know if you can see, kind of hard to see. Right in here, there's a little bit of an edge to where that bit kind of ran a line right there. I like to hand sand these out. So this is some 220 on here. So I will hand sand these edges where we did the roundover, because to me it just it kind of gives that look of, I don't know, hand sanding. And it isn't a lot of work to do this, but it really does, I think it pays to do this part by hand. You can have more control over that roundover, because I don't want to destroy the roundover and I don't want to change it, but it does need to be smoothed out, because especially on areas where it's rounding over on like right here where it's doing in grain, it's not going to be great on in grain. It doesn't like in grain. Nothing likes in grain. In grain is the bane of the woodworker's existence, which is funny that, you know, the best-selling cutting boards are in grain cutting boards, but they're like the biggest pain to make because of that roundover, or not the roundover, because of the in grain, and getting a nice smooth finish on in grain takes a lot of sanding and a lot of smoothing and everything else. I can take these headphones off. I don't know why I keep wearing the headphones. That's so much better. But anyway, I'm just trying to clean up these roundovers now by hand so that they look nice. And this wood's pretty hard, so I don't have to worry too much about changing that profile too much. But there's some burning in here. I don't know if you can see the burning right there. There is a little burning that happens from that bit on the end grain as well. So I'm trying to get rid of that and keep that profile of the roundover and get rid of that burning, because it's inevitable usually that you'll get a little burning. I try to keep that bit moving, but it does happen at times. So just kind of working this edge. There we go. And because it's 220, it comes up pretty nice. I've got a little bit, I'm going to get this profile right here. And the thing is, by using 220, if I go over this, I'm not changing how smooth this is, right? Because it's the same grit. So if anything, I would be taking some swirl marks out, which there really shouldn't be too many, but try to work this out as best I can. There's a little bit, and it's hard to see some of these, so I kind of have to work so I can see the shadows on these to make sure I'm getting any of these straight edge lines from that bit kind of worked out. So I'll just kind of work this, kind of rotating my hand over as I go to kind of really keep the shape of that roundover. And yet we're just smoothing it. We're running with the wood here. There we go. That is really nice. Just get this a little bit, just keeping that nice and smooth. That looks nice. And this one is nice right here. Let's check out this corner. There's a little bit more burning over here. So we'll work on that. Kind of try to keep this round over going. So I work my way around the corner as I sand. And don't stay in any one spot too long, because that will flatten it, and I don't want it to be flattened. I want it to be rounded. This one's going to require a little bit more work here. A little more burning right there, but I think I pretty much got it. But as I'm moving, I'm breaking my wrist over that corner so that it keeps that rounded profile. I'm not really trying to change anything. I'm just trying to smooth it out, and that looks really nice. Here's one of those edges right here. So I will work on this edge right here and try to get rid of that. It's just a tiny little edge, and so it usually doesn't require too much work with the sandpaper to get rid of that edge right there. And so I can just kind of hit this. And I still have to break the edge on these too, which I'll probably do that with a piece of 150, just to be a little bit more aggressive in breaking that edge. I find that I have a little bit more success with a 150 than I do with the 220. 220, just not quite aggressive enough to break that edge. Well, I mean, I could do it, but it would take longer. And I'm like, you know, let's be efficient. Let's not take forever to do these things. All right, this edge right here, more burning at the top. So I'm gonna work this edge. Now this is a lot of work. I mean, you may choose to do a different thing than I do. I mean, this is where that, you know, how valuable is your time thing comes into play. You know, it's one of those things. It's like, how much is your time worth? And are you going to charge for it? And are you going to be able to recoup that when you're selling your item? And this is where some people have a tough time, because they're like, well, I worked on that for 200 hours. And it's like, well, yeah, but I could buy one from the store for cheaper. So you have to have people who appreciate the amount of effort you're going to put into something. And then, you know, don't put in so much effort that you can't recoup back out. Unless it's just what you want to do. You know, if you don't care, then it doesn't matter. But if you care, then, you know, take these things into account. Now right here, because this is curly wood, it's the grain does not completely straight, and there's little ripples in here, and those did not cut smoothly. So I'm going to make sure I get this. That's why I like to come back and do this hand sanding and get those really smoothed out. Because I don't want it to feel rough at all. When you put your hand on there, you should not feel anything rough on there. It should be smooth. There's your baby bottom. Your little baby bottom right there. All right, well, let's not talk too much about baby bottoms, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Nice and smooth. That is nice right there. That's lovely. All right. And then did I get this one? So let me check all these edges. And then I just kind of give the corners just a little touch up, just to break any corner edges that I might have here. I don't want any sharp corners. And this one has a little bit right there. Break that edge a little bit right there. That's from the router bit, but that's actually pretty nice. Okay. Yeah, so this takes a little longer, this process right here, but I think this is part of the process that really pays dividends in the long run, because it's this, you know, attention to detail kind of thing that I think customers really appreciate, even though they don't know they're appreciating it. When they're looking at what they bought, you know, that quality really does kind of come through, and they can see it. I've got a sharp edge right here that needs to be, yeah, I need to fix this edge. So let's come in here and do this. I'm not trying to go against the grain on this walnut right here. I just want to go with it. And then over here, it's going to round it over. So I'm trying to adhere to at least the direction that the grain is going as I sand. So you can see right here, I'm going this way because the grain's running here, but here the grain's kind of running straight. So I don't want to come across it. That would introduce lines that don't blend in with the wood and scratches and such. So just gotta round that corner there. Let me check. Right here, I got to work this bottom edge a little bit. And this one's just about done. And that's pretty much what I'm going to do to all of these. I'm going to come through and do this little finishing touches. There might be a couple of gaps where if there's some gaps, what I might do for the gaps is to get a piece of maple like this and sand a whole bunch of, I'll sand it a lot, get a bunch of sawdust off of this piece of maple, and then take that and mix it with a little glue and fill in just some little tiny gaps that I might have. Because even though I try to be pretty precise with the joinery, there are sometimes, let me see if I can find, yeah, like right here, I don't know if you can see it, I'll point to it. So right here, where this joint, where this dovetail meets up, there's just a tiny gap right there, which, you know, is small. And like I said, I notice these things more than a customer would probably notice them, but they show up to me. That one's actually the only one I find on here. That's not too bad. But they are apparent to me, and that's enough. If I see them, they will bug me all the time. So I usually have to just fix those things. All right. So this one's done. I'm going to rinse and repeat on these other two. And I think we found a nice option for our finish here. I like this a lot. So I will use that Mission Brown stain or dye stain. So I'll use the Mission Brown dye stain. I'll probably do it in alcohol because it's just really nice and fast. But I'll do that in alcohol, and then we'll sand it off, and then we will apply some tung oil finish over the top. And I'll probably do a couple of tung oil finish processes on there, probably 2 or 3 coats of tung oil. Tung oil, it's like you put it on, 15 minutes later you wipe it off, but then you have to wait about a day to do the next coat. You have to really kind of let it cure up for about 24 hours. You can do another coat, and then same thing, 15 minutes later you wipe it off, let it cure up again for another 24 hours or so. So I might do like 2 coats of tung oil, 2 or 3 depending. And once the tung oil is done, I might do a shellac over top of the tung oil, sand that, and then do a lacquer on top. So these might get like a triple kind of thing, even though you're like, oh, you're not having to stain it. It's a much faster process. Not really. It's still going to take some time to get this dialed in. But it should all pay off in the end. And like I said, a lot of this stuff is just put it on and then wait. So it's not like I have to continually do things to it. It just is going to be easier. You know, it's just the time that it takes is the time it takes to cure. So I can do other things while it's curing. And it's kind of like this thing right here. I can now put a top coat finish because this has been sitting around and curing. That Danish oil that I've put on there is now totally cured, and I can put whatever finish I want onto there, and it will accept the finish just fine and look great and be ready for use. So same thing with these. It's a matter of time. It's not like you can just push your way through a finishing process, because you have to let all of the different steps take their required amount of time to cure and do whatever they need to do. Just like when you put the stain on, the dye stain, you know, you have to let that dry before you actually go and sand it off. You can't sand it while it's wet. You have to let it sit there and be dry. So I'll do the 220 on here. I will dye stain them. I'm going to keep the dye stain off of the walnut as best as possible because I don't need it to be any darker. But I could probably put a piece of tape around the edges right here. Just the pins might get a little stain on them, which is okay, because they usually look darker anyway, just because they're end grain. But I might keep it off of the larger portion of the walnut here. So I might just put some tape around those edges right there. Dye stain these. I have to do the inside too, and that's like, okay, well, yikes, what am I gonna do about the bottom and stuff? I don't know yet. Still working on it, but I might just do the top. I think I'm leaning towards just doing the top edge of the walnut, not worrying about the insides. I will still do like a tung oil finish on the insides, but I will not do the dye stain on the inside. And I don't really care because, like I said, the machine's gonna sit on there. So it doesn't really matter what the inside looks like, it's the outside. So if I do the dye stain on the outside, sand it off, get that grain to accentuate and pop, and then do tung oil over the whole thing, including the insides and the walnut, because walnut looks amazing with tung oil as well. I think that's the plan going forward because, yeah, it should look pretty good. My dogs are going nuts. I can hear them up in my bedroom. They're crazy. I've got a Great Dane and a Foxhound, and they start WrestleMania multiple times a day, and usually up in my bedroom because it's a big open floor, and for whatever reason, they just get going. All right. Well, hey, if you were here today, no comments or anything, but that's okay. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Come back again on Friday. Yeah, Friday, almost going to push through the end of this week. Come back again on Friday. I'll be here at 11 o'clock, and you can see where we're at. I don't know where I'll be at that point in time, but we'll see where we're at in the process. I may be almost finished. I may not be. If I am, we'll start something else. Otherwise, we'll just kind of continue through, try to get these things listed and sell them just like the others, because that was pretty nice. But right now, I need to go deliver their stuff to the post office and, earn my pay. So have a great rest of your Wednesday. Have a wonderful Thursday. Hopefully I'll see you back here on Friday, 11 o'clock on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And yeah, if you could, before you leave, hit that like, subscribe, follow, whatever it is that, is there. Just click one of those things, thumbs up, whatever. I'd appreciate it. It helps me out just a little bit. So, all right, have a great day. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Wear your mask. Get your vaccine. All those good things. And I will see you on Friday. And I will see you on Friday. And I will see you on Friday. And I will see you on